Connecticut strikes out again. Welcome to the Stan Simpson Show, a program about Connecticut people and compelling issues, and make it a point to drop in every week. Connecticut has the largest academic achievement gap in America. Yet this land of steady habits has struck out twice in competing for federal race to the top money, a pool of more than $4 billion. So what gives? Despite making impressive strides to enhance accountability, empower parents, and expand successful school models, Connecticut didn't make the cut. Today, we'll talk with some education advocates about why Connecticut was summarily dismissed. In our second segment, are you ready for some football? The NFL camps are open, and WTIC-AM's Scott Gray breaks down the locals, Pats, the Jets, and the Giants. Then we'll wrap things up with some legal insight from our entertainment attorney, James Walker, a regular contributor here. Brangelina won an interesting defamation suit. It was settled against a foreign newspaper, and there's a novel sports lawsuit that has folks chirping. But first, we'll chirp about Connecticut. Unbelievable, the largest, widest achievement gap in the country. Second time now, $4 billion available, and Connecticut can't get a sniff. What's going on? Alex Johnson here with ConCan. Danielle Smith here with the Connecticut Black Alliance Education Options Group. And Michael Sharp, CEO of Jamoke Academy, one of the most promising charter schools in the state. Welcome all. What's going on?
Well, Stan, it's definitely unfortunate that we've lost again in round two, but I think we got to keep this in perspective. We've made big progress in enacting education reform, all of which is based on the evidence of what works for kids. And so we want to keep moving down that same path. And ultimately, I think what this comes down to is we need to focus on the governor's race.
Why?
Legislative leadership can only go so far. And when you look at the states that are being successful in this race, we see a strong executive leadership as a critical factor. So this is about the governor's race and making sure that no matter who wins the governor's mansion, they're going to put education reform number one.
How about the senators and congressmen? Because you raised an interesting point here. How much of this is political power? When you see Delaware, where Joe Biden's from, getting $100 million, Connecticut, the widest gap in America, can't get any of it. How much is this an indictment of leadership in Connecticut, political leadership? Who wants it?
You know what? All right, since I'm on a roll, let me try one more. Look, I don't think this has anything to do with politics. I know there are people who disagree, and there are lots of federal funding streams that work in a different way and are very political. This one is not. This has to do with a competition, fair and square. We're going to get the point totals back in a month when we see where we end up finally. And I can tell you, when I look at that list of finalists, you can look at every single one of those states, and
Washington,
you can see where they went further than we did. And, we had tremendous ground to close between round one and round two. We made a solid effort. But this comes back to the need for executive leadership. And that's why we're focused on the governor's race.
Which brings you to, there is politics in it, and the executive leadership is very, very important. But it's also, in terms of the state of Connecticut Department of Education, we have to have the will to make the reforms that are necessary to get Connecticut off this worst achievement gap in the nation. If I hear that one more time, I'm going to move to where's the highest or the closest. But at any rate, I think that we have to, begin to look at not suddenly responding to an application, but having an ongoing strong will to fix Connecticut and have the reforms necessary.
We're systemic. Danielle Smith, what kind of reforms are we talking about? What kind of things are needed to catch the attention of those funders and to make meaningful change?
Well, I'd actually like to start with what's required to build that will. BAYO is focused particularly on advocacy training for parents across the state. And with that effort, we hope to build the level of awareness and issue understanding around what's required.
Again, BAYO, the Black Alliance of Educational Options, you're the Connecticut director. what things in particular do you want to see pushed through?
Well, much of what were the strides that were made last year, the increase in accountability, the way that we link student achievement and evaluation of teachers and school leaders, and something else that came out of legislation last year had to do with school governance and a direct effort to engage families and community in the process of being part of the transformation and improvement of schools.
It would seem to me with this pool of money, if I were running things, you would say, all right, Connecticut's number one, the worst in the country. You have $4 billion. You almost should say, okay, Connecticut, and then who else? You know, that's what kind of throws me here, is that I don't know how they are disqualified when you have historically the worst. Why aren't they just put in there on protocol, not despite, but considering the fact that they also made some changes with teacher accountability. So why wouldn't Connecticut, they just salt away some money and say, you know what, you guys have been historically the worst. Give me some money, and the rest now compete.
Well, I think the reality is Connecticut can compete. But we have to keep, as Mike said, if what we're doing makes sense for kids, if we're enacting reforms that we know make sense, like the ones Danielle just outlined, like school finance reform to have money follow children based on their learning needs. If we're doing those things, those are the right things to be doing regardless of any particular federal competition. But the states started doing those things, right? This was freshman. The state started saying, okay, we'll pony up. The unions came to the table. So the state actually bent on this. So what happened? Well, number one, it's clear that we didn't go as far as other states did. We still have a lot of work to do. Number two, and I'm going to sound like a broken record, legislative leadership can only do so much. That's why at ConCan we've launched this campaign, Vote for Ed. We're running Mr. Education as a candidate for governor, and he's got our ideal platform.
You have a horse there. Do you have a horse in this?
Education. Vote for Ed. Okay. And, whoever you vote for Ed. Put this issue first. And that's the way we know we're going to get a governor who takes this issue and runs with it. And there's a lot to build on.
But is it the governor, again, back to the congressmen and senators, is it the governor who has the most influence, or the folks down in Washington where this money seems to be coming out of?
I think we learned.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I think if nothing, this experience taught us that there is no one entity that's going to be responsible for fixing this. And there was no one entity that was responsible for creating this vast gap that we have in Connecticut. It's going to truly require that all of the stakeholders understand what role they have. It includes the public voting in a way that's responsible and with the right information. And so knowing what to look for, knowing what's required, what this candidate should have, what their platform should be. We have individual responsibilities as citizens to be conversant and understand this issue and to take action as well. We can't leave it to just one entity and say that that's why we lost this. It's because as a state, we did not build collectively the will or politically the will to do it.
I think that's true, Danielle, but I would also say that this competition was uniquely designed to put the executive branch in every state on the spot, because they were the ones, the executive branch, that has to file the application. Legislatures needed to pass laws, but without that gubernatorial leadership, it's hard to compare us to the other states.
In 1 minute, Michael Sharp, you had one of the great success stories in Connecticut, Jamoki Academy, where you have dramatically changed scores. You are reducing the achievement gap. You're a key player in all this. You're on the front lines. You've done the transformation. What key elements must happen to make this achievement gap go away?
I think the major thing that has to happen is Connecticut has to look at its funding, how it funds its students. And
what are you doing in about 30 seconds? What are you doing at Jamoki specifically? Because you've had a tremendous transformation over the last 10 years. Give me 3 bullet points on what Jamoki is doing to change things around.
Great teaching, parent involvement, and working very closely with a rigorous, relevant curriculum for the students.
You were talking off camera. You said third grade, a very problematic area. If you can solve that third grade issue, you can get the ball rolling. Talk about it.
Yeah, our 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th graders are scoring off the charts. They've closed the achievement gap.
At your school?
At our school. There is no achievement gap with those grades. The 3rd and 4th grade continue to struggle. The good news is when they reach 5th, 6th grade, they seem to explode and they're getting it. But we're working really hard with trying to understand what we need to do to adjust so that our 3rd graders and 4th graders are showing promise a lot quicker than waiting before they get to the 5th, 6th, and 7th grade.
What's happening at that level where they're starting to explode? Just a culmination of the work, or what's happening specifically to make that click?
I think what's happening is they've gone through the Jamoki Academy process. They've been there since kindergarten, 1st or 2nd grade, and it's clicking. The teaching, good teaching, being in a stable school environment for a consistent period of time is making a major difference for the kids. And in a lot of urban districts, kids go from school to school, and they don't have the continuity that most of the kids at Jamoke have. And I think that's a major difference.
That continuity is important, 30 seconds, but also duplicating success, right? Finding those models of success and finding a way to duplicate it. Real quick, Danielle. Duplicating success.
Well, one of the major ways is that parents need to know about what's happening at Jamoke so that they can recognize excellence, and then they can demand excellence for their children. So, again, Bayo's parent advocacy trainings that we're doing across the state are designed to help parents to understand what high quality looks like, to understand the process in change making at the district and school level, and then to be able to call for more of that so that more children have access to these high quality options.
We turned away 400 kids this year.
Wow.
400
for waiting list.
And you're only being funded 75 cents on the dollar.
All right, we'll get into that. We're out. So we know. So the biggest thing is knowing success in order to advocate for it, seeing what success really is, right? All right, thanks for your time, folks. We'll bring you back in again. When we come back, the NFL camps are open. We'll talk about the prospects of the local teams with WTIC AM Scott Gray. You are watching The Stan Simpson Show. Don't go away.